evening. As many of you know, this parish is very walk this way, baby. Come on in. This parish is very involved and works with and gives money to St. Passage. 3 people are with us in our congregation today that went on the team this summer. We'll be sharing about their trip and this ministry this morning. So I turn it over to Wolterbeek. She can give a hand, Kirsten, and Kirsten, yeah. So they can hear us. Bring the mic down. So, I'm pretty loud. Yeah. So anyway, the 3 of us went through this, and we were asked by Sue to do a sermon about the trip, so you could hear a little bit more about the experience, but also where God was in that experience. So I'm not a particularly private person, but what I tend to do is cry when my heart breaks too sad. I do cry when my heart breaks open with so much love. So I'm going to try to get through my part, which gracefully they all do. I have the part to talk a bit about the history. A lot of you know it because we've been involved for quite a while. So I'm going to start with Matthew 25:40. And the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. This is what Safe Passage is all about, and all that we see when we are in their community. The millennium goals of the Episcopal Church, which were eradicate poverty, and each parish was asked to participate. St. Thomas's formed a committee, and after some research, conversations, and a vote, we selected the Safe Passage project. Their mission statement was to eradicate poverty through education, and that is exactly what they were just beginning to do. 23 years ago, Safe Passage was a small organization located in the city dump community of Guatemala City. This community was referred to as Guatemala's dirty little secret. The families worked in the dump and lived in homes on land that was an extension of the dump, which were built from what they could find in the rush. They had little access to water and electricity. They were hungry, their clothing was ragged and dirty, most were unhealthy, both physically and mentally. The trash was not only their income by selling anything recyclable, but it provided them with food, clothing, toys, etc. But God was there. They are a proud people. They are resilient, and they find happiness in the world around them. The angel of the dump was Hanley Denning, a young woman from Maine, who founded Safe Passage on a shoestring budget by selling her personal belongings. Initially, it was created to serve as an educational reinforcement center in an abandoned small church. Hanley had to work hard gaining the trust of families to agree that they would allow their children to spend part of the day with her and a few volunteers. These kids were working side by side with their parents picking trash. Her goal was to let them spend time being kids, get some education, do projects, play games, and have a healthy meal. God is in the face of every child in the dump community. Most families have lived in the dump community for generations without any formal education. On our first volunteer trip the program had grown and moved into a small building which had a lot more space, a full kitchen, classrooms, and a safe outside space for children to play. It was a short walk from the dump. The children are loved not only by their parents, but by all the staff, teachers, and volunteers. Unfortunately, many of the parents are on a survival mode and busy working in the dump, so they're unable to provide many of the basic needs for the children. There are many problems in the community with drugs, violence, and lack of parenting skills. Staff and volunteers at Safe Passage provide a safe environment for the children to escape that world for part of their day. Safe Passage has also expanded the program to teach families skills to improve their lives. They provide medical and psychological help, and they pass out nutritional food bags to each family once a month. Over the past 23 years, we've had 8 service teams go to work at Safe Passage. It has grown through love, dedication, volunteers, and financial donations to provide an absolutely amazing, fully accredited school for 600 students ranging from 2 years through 9th grade. They currently plan to build a high school. They have developed programs for the extended family to go to learn and write, read, and manage their finances. The oldest student was an 82-year-old grandmother who married to me, who learned to write her name because her granddaughter could write her name, and that was her goal. It feels like the community went from existing in black and white to being an amazing, beautiful colored space. Everything sustaining and surrounding the growth of St. Patrick has been volunteers, doing God's work to help, to serve, and to give. To, as the Bible says, the least of our brothers. The people in this community may not have beautiful green grass, fresh water, well-built homes, or an overstuffed closet like most of us, but they certainly don't feel like the least of us when you meet them. The first time we went down, I remember being overwhelmed, not only emotionally by the stench from the garbage dump and how dirty and unhealthy the kids were, but by the love that was there. It was more overpowering than the smell. Today, through people doing God's work, these children are clean, healthier, and educated beyond anything predicted. They are headed toward futures that could not have been imagined. Every time I go to Guatemala to serve, I am where I am supposed to be. We learn a lot about our God-given talents and that we all have our part. I know the gift I have is to get down on a dirty floor, scoop up a child, and make their life a little bit better. I am pretty sure this is exactly what God designed me to do. The last few times I went to Guatemala and served at St. Patrick, I have said, this will be my last trip. And then, when I get there, that thought gets chipped away. And then my beloved friend Mary looks at me with a twinkle in her eye, big smile, and says, no, I won't. And that too is God's work, because she's probably hung of it.
So I have made 5 trips to Safe Passage, the first in 2010, 2012, 2014, 2019, and then 2023. And certainly everything that Kai says is true. It is an amazing organization, and the work they do is on a scale that when you look at one person started this, it's really quite unbelievable. And it makes me think of, there are a couple of questions in the baptismal covenant that I have been asked as part of a service, probably 100 times. And I have answered, as all of us have, I will with God's help. But until we were invited to do this service, I didn't really think about the practicality of what is it that I am saying I will do with God's help. The 2 questions that stick out to me are, will you seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself? And the answer is, will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? And that's really what happens at Safe Passage. At the end of each service week, we have a special dinner where people talk about the experience and what struck them. And for me, it has always been that the staff treat this community with such respect. They don't, even when Hanley first started, it was not, oh, I know exactly what you guys need. We need this here, we need this here. She spent her time talking to them and saying, what things would you change if you could? How can we make your life better? And then she did those things. One of the issues that she ran up against was that the children who were coming to the reinforcement center many times were needed to take care of their younger siblings, so their parents could. And when you say work in the dump, they're going through the trash that is dumped out of each garbage truck and picking through all of that to find food, toys, metal, anything recyclable, and it is a business. They are looking at, the price of milk bottles is down now, so I'm going to save all my milk bottles. Kind of like what the lobster fishermen do, right? They put all those lobsters in a special pot. until the lobster price goes up. They are actually, running a business. But so if the younger kids needed to stay home, sometimes the older kids were forced to take care, not forced to take care of them, but they had to stay home and take care of it. And so they wouldn't be in school, and that bothered me. So what do you do when you see that? You start a daycare center. So the little kids can come and be taken care of, the big kids can go to school, and the older kids, the parents can then work in the dump. So I was so impressed with the idea of their preserving the dignity of these people, and they are very dignified families. They work hard, they have a lot of joy in their lives, and the idea that we're just providing the things that will help them to make a better life for their children is just amazing. And, you know, it makes me think too of all of the things that we do as a parish. And I say, I'm using the big we, even though I'm not necessarily part of that we all the time. You know, in terms of the friendly kitchen, the dignity that is provided to the people who come there. The MARF that comes on Tuesday nights, the dignity that we want everyone to feel that they are respected and that we recognize them as human beings. And so Safe Passage was just a wonderful way for us to be able to do that. And I got to take trips with my good friend over here. And it's been just a really amazing opportunity. And I certainly, when she plans the next one, I would encourage people to take a look and see if you don't want to go down there and spend a week in Guatemala City. Or actually spend, you sleep in Antigua, but you work in Guatemala City.
When I was in college, I thought I was going to Africa with the Peace Corps. And at the time, I was a civil engineering student and expected I would be digging wells for clean water. I went to an information night and I drove my mother especially crazy. She was convinced I would get hurt there, talking about the work and what I expected to do. For many reasons, Africa didn't pan out, but the seed was planted. I wanted to go to a place where the marketing picture showed undeniable, obvious joy despite the hardships. A place where even the smallest things were so much more difficult than anything I ever knew. I lived in Portland, Maine when Hanley Denny was killed in a tragic car accident. I remember the news coverage. I remember being in awe of her work, her impact, her courage, and commitment. When Stu and I first started researching the call to St. Thomas, one of the things I noticed right away was the work of St. Thomas, the Safe Passage. I was immediately intrigued. The first harvest fair I went to in 2018, I worked with Kai on the table selling Guatemalan whips. And in 2019, Kai invited both Stu and I to the Safe Passage. We didn't know what to expect, even though we were reassured that it would be amazing and life-changing. We were told not to worry about the smells of the dump, the language barrier of not being fluent in Spanish, or the poverty, despite it being a realistic concern. Instead, we were told we would see the amazing work of Safe Passage and experience a welcoming community and culture. That was so true and remains true even after my second journey this past summer. Like the glossy pictures the Peace Corps uses for marketing, Safe Passage does too. Colorful, vibrant pictures of students learning and smiling, working, eating, and enjoying life. And those pictures are the experiences you have when you're there. Spending time in those classrooms is unlike spending time in my own classroom. Those children know how lucky they are. They feel it in their bellies when they're fed. They see it in the love from their teachers and volunteers, or from their new glasses bestowed upon their face. Their families also know the blessings of Safe Passage. I only hope my former students would show that level of joy if volunteers would show up to help them. I doubt many of them would. The children of Safe Passage understand how blessed, fortunate, and downright lucky they are to be there, learning, working, and being. The depth of suffering in the community around the dump is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. The smell, the sights of unlit small houses without running water or windows, of newborn puppies in a discarded truck, so many street dogs and cats, children not being fed, nourished, and educated by Safe Passage or any of the other many organizations or schools there. The sounds of trucks, of shuttles, of honks from buses and cars, and despite it all, God is there. There, in that suffering, and in the hope that comes with a new presidential candidate, not from a corrupt regime. Hope in the colorful schoolrooms, and hope in the staff, students, and families involved in Safe Passage. Our work there is not a handout. We work alongside the community that does this work before our trip, after our trip, and despite our trip. This community is the epitome of the problem. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. The work they are doing there employs many people from Guatemala City and from the community near the dump. The children at Safe Passage have opportunities unlike many of their peers. And the children of staff members that grow up outside the zone of the dump have an awareness of this poverty that exists in their very own city that they may never have known about. Within all of this, there is love, hope, and faith in the work done at Safe Passage. I still think about going to other countries and doing God's work, offering my skills in London, and I still may go back to Guatemala again to work alongside Safe Passage or some other NGO in Guatemala. Seeing the joy and love, hearing the sound of the good news in those classrooms, and being able to share with the people of Safe Passage and with you is humbling. Each time I've been there, I have felt revered and appreciated for serving just 1 week. But it is in being the volunteer that I have been served and loved and changed. Thank you.
They're the terrible Don. Just a few stories of the minister of the Mormons, and thank you. If you would like to see pictures and some of the visuals of some of the things that they talked about this morning, please come to coffee hour. Kirsten and Mary, Kirsten put it together, but we've got tons of photos that will be running in a slideshow during coffee hour that can give you kind of an image to attach to the words. But I would like to thank all three of them for sharing their stories with us. Obviously, it's easy to, it's not easy when your hearts are broken open, and yet that's where the gospel moves. So thank you, all three of you.